Residents are pretty nervous about being trampled, let's say, on a Black Friday sale.
Not only development will enrich our local economy, but also our quality of life, like you were saying, in our community. Not just in Tracy, but throughout California. Our property taxes are higher. Our local taxes are higher. Some of them have HOA, some of them, because of the bigger developments, are able to pay those impact fees. We need to educate the new residents or home buyers.
ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਸੋਚ ਟੀਵੀ ਤੇ ਇੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਕਾਲੀਰਾਏ ਆਪਣੀ ਗੱਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਔਰ ਸੈਨੇਟ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਲੋਕਲ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਸੈਨੇਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਔਰ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਮੇਅਰ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਐਲਿਸ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਇਹ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ council candidate, City of Tracy. Welcome to Ajkal America, Alice. Just a brief introduction. You're a candidate for City Council. Tell us more about Alice English, the candidate for council.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be on your broadcast. I appreciate it. As you know, my name is Alice English, and I've lived and reside here in Tracy for a little over 21 years. I've always been an advocate for public safety and our community amenities and our infrastructure. I've also sat on the Transportation Commission for 4 years for the City of Tracy. And I had the privilege to sit on the Redistricting Commission for our county, which happens every 10 years. So I was honored to do that and to serve our community. And currently, I'm serving as your planning commissioner for the City of Tracy. And one of the reasons I'm planning is because I like to see more retail, better retail, our infrastructure, and to continue bringing in businesses into Tracy. And to attract businesses, we got to all work together. And in order for us to do that, as not just council, but mayor, is to work together with a common goal for the betterment of Tracy. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for city council.
Thank you, Alice. And you've mentioned the Planning Council and you've mentioned your desire for attracting new businesses that could help Tracy flourish and serve the residents of Tracy. On that note, we've had a lot of issues statewide, local cities, even nationwide, where we had issues with retail theft. So come your term starting after the election, as council member, Alice English, what could you do to encourage businesses and encourage residents to go shop in places? Because residents are pretty nervous about being trampled, let's say, on a Black Friday sale, because somebody wants to run out with a big screen TV from Best Buy or Target, or grab a bunch of items from the local Walmart. If they're doing that, most citizens don't really want to be caught up in that. The other side of it, the retailers who want to come and do business, they want to service these customers. They're also reluctant because retail crime is impacting their bottom line. From a council perspective, what could you do to alleviate both of those, the business owners coming in and the residents who are going to be frequenting there and spending their money?
I think that's a really good question, because I've been opponent of the law that went through a couple years ago where I believe it was Proposition 47, where they were not prosecuting for theft. And I've had the privilege, and we're lucky that here in San Joaquin County, we have a new district attorney, Ron Freitas. And Ron Freitas is hard on crime. And he's implemented, and I think in the state of California, there's going to be an initiative on the ballot for that reason, is we have to save our retail, our merchants, and at the same time, public safety. Here in Tracy, I've been an advocate to, as our city continues to grow, I've been pushing to have more law enforcement. our fire department. As the city continues to grow, we need to increase our staff. And to do that, we need to get ahead of this crime. We can't just have 100 police officers, and our goal should be 120 just here in Tracy. I know we hired some police officers, but it doesn't make up for the police officers that are retiring. So, not just in this city, but other cities, we have to get in front of that. And I have the privilege, and I think I'm the only city council member that is endorsed by our district attorney for San Joaquin County, Ron Freitas. And because we do work closely together, and he's been a big fight also on fentanyl, we have substance abuse. And he's hard on crime on that. And a lot of those thefts are contribute to that. Not all of it, but a lot of it because they need their drugs. So I am a proponent for public safety, and we have the privilege of having Ron Freitas as a San Joaquin District Attorney. Not just myself, but our Pro Mayor, Elisa Davis, also has this good rapport with our District Attorney and also with our Police Chief. So working together on crime and allowing us to have the cameras now here in Tracy, we need to invest more street cameras, which are allowing the readers of the cars to come in. They recognize those vehicles coming out from the Bay Area or for Stockton into our city. Because of that, we were able to be proactive. Not all of it, but we could get there together, having the same mindset with our city council, because it's not just one, it takes all five of us, right? To get this to go. And our city council is one mayor and four council members. So that is huge, and it is going to be on the ballot. I encourage people to vote for that. It would help not just our city, but throughout California.
I think so, and thank you for that. And the proposition that you're talking about that's on the ballot is Proposition 36, is going to be addressing the negative impact that Proposition 47 had. And
Yes.
interestingly, the legislature in Sacramento has been geared towards contaminating Prop 36 or trying to prevent it from going through. One of the means of prevention was a batch of laws that have been passed in Sacramento to dilute what Prop 36 might do. And the media was reporting not long ago that some of those bills were presented with a poison pill, and many of the authors decided to pull out of those bills. And it appears that the governor also had a competing ballot measure that he was proposing. That didn't go through. So, fortunately, from a law enforcement, public safety aspect, Proposition 36 is on the ballot, and hopefully people will vote for it as you've asked them to. And we may see some changes come towards enforcement and conviction of retail theft. There's arguments why we need to change our crime prosecution system. We need to be more considerate, but it's getting to a point where it seems like the elite are able to protect their aesthetic views from their houses in the elite districts, but most residents who live in the communities are the ones who are suffering from this type of crime and the retail strip malls that we deal with. Anyway, going off from that, another area of significance is the homeless. The county, the city, together, as well as the state, have a significant role to play in that. As council member, what could you do to help Tracy alleviate the homeless issues and challenges that are facing the city and the residents?
And I agree 100%. Parks were made for families and for children, and not to have encampments. Um, one of our Mayor Pro Tem, Davis, was one of the proponents a year and a half ago, saying, this law that came from, I think it was Boise, Idaho. So I'm sorry, I've lost the title there for a minute. But she made a point saying that we're not against homeless. We're here to support and help them find resources to put the unhoused in a proper place and not where our children's play. It's our taxpayers' money. So she was actually ahead of the game a year and a half ago. And just recently, the Supreme Court made that ruling. And she was actually one of the persons here in California that created that policy with the help and the support of our police chief and Ron Freitas and our board of supervisor Robert Rickman. And we were able to, and the residents to support her, where we just recently, we had, I think, 145 encampments at a park. And they were able to get funding, and we have a low-bearing shelter for them to go to. Um, and we're also trying to get more resources for mental health, not just for the house, but unhoused, because that contributes a lot for them to be out in the streets because the families can't work with them. We need a council that's going to continue working together to have the resources and the medical attention that they need. We're lucky right now that we have the shelter in place, and we're on phase 2 to do that. We cleaned out Pascadero Park with the help of 2 other council members, and we'll continue working together to get those resources with the support of our county supervisors, because together we could work to get those resources. You know, San Joaquin County is a large county, and Tracy's the second largest city in the county, but we're able to continue going that path forward. Being on council, I'm going to continue supporting that and to get funding, because right now, a lot of people don't know, we're almost spending $3 million for resources to get that shelter to be built, and it was finally done at the beginning of this year. And I would continue to support that.
What we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back after the break and address a few other local Tracy issues where city council can have an impact. So let's take a short break and we'll come back. जी हाँ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਸੋਚ ਟੀਵੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਕਾਲੀਰਾਏ। ਆਪਣੀ ਗੱਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਐਲਿਸ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਨਾਲ, ਜੋ ਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਦੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਖੜੇ ਨੇ। ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਦੇਵੋ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ। From a city council perspective, you were on the planning commission, or you are still on the planning commission. One of the
Yes, sir.
features is we talked about homeless, and housing is a key issue. Um, one of the factors that influences house prices is the fees that builders pay to redevelop land. There are cases where builders have come in, they bought some land, they want to build housing on it, they're complying with the zoning for single family homes, low income homes, multi-family complexes. But the time duration and the cost of the fees is an impeding factor. As a city council member, is there anything you can do or propose that might help not the builders in this context, because they're just going to have markups, they're going to recover their costs, but the impact of the actual cost of housing, building it, goes to the buyer, and that impacts the housing market as a whole? Is there anything not involving the county, not involving the state, but city-based zoning, city-based permitting? Is there anything that could be done to help alleviate those costs, increase the speed of approvals, that makes it easier for homes to be built faster and made available to the communities, and thus alleviate some of the housing issues that people are experiencing?
That's a good question, because there's a lot of components to that, especially here in Tracy. I don't know if you know that I am in favor of smart development, because it would not only development will enrich our local economy, but also our quality of life, like you were saying, in our community. In order for the impact fees, we have, unfortunately, a agreement in the past that's out of our control, especially right now with our current council. There's 2 developments and 2 developers that were given a priority of the residential growth allotment. And but that's causing a lot of our other development, especially with the lower income development that wants to come into Tracy. I think that is the most important question. As far as the impact fees, that's something that we could work on. We have a new staff now that in the past, some were giving higher impact fees and some were given favors. Okay, and so unfortunately, the other developments are being taxed with that, and our residents. To me, it's sadly because you see, not just in Tracy, but throughout California, our property taxes are higher, our local taxes are higher. Some of them have HOA, some of them have. For some reason, they still have Melrose. So on top of the taxes that our residents, because I'm a owner, I'm a property owner, I own my home. So I've seen it increasingly getting higher. Some of them are going for school taxes, which is I'm a supportive of that. But in order for our local council, we need to sit down with our city manager because we cannot oversee the planning, but we could advise our city manager and the city attorney to work with staff to see where these fees and why are these fees being only taxed on certain development. There's been a lot of them already set prior to this 15, 20 years ago, but I know that we could work on those. Things could change for the betterment of Tracy. And recently we were taxed with the housing element, and the housing element is that we have to provide and medium income, moderate houses, lower, moderate, and just recently we approved senior housing for low income. So with that, we're behind, not just here in Tracy, but throughout California because of the bigger developments that are able to pay those impact fees is pushing out or holding other development to come into Tracy. And that's something that we really need to work on. We can't keep allowing for amendments to come into Tracy with these developers and holding back good development. One-story houses, for instance. We're developing homes that right now they look like condominiums. There's no backyards for our children. And those impact fees should be allowed to give a little bit more acre to our backyard to make it safe. Because here in Tracy, a majority of the parents work out of Tracy. And the children can go out to the parks on their own, but if they have a safe backyard, they can. And I know that's not just here in Tracy. We've gotten this mindset, build more and less acreage or less property in the backyards. And the impact fees, there's a lot of them that are already set through the city, but we could find better solutions. And the only way we could do it, it would have to be five of us, five good council members, because I am a proponent for not just families, but small businesses here in Tracy. And we need to work together for better businesses, smaller businesses, and our housing. I'm telling you, I'm paying way too much property taxes right now as it is. But it's not just one person. We have to be together working for families, and the impact fees, some of them are good because they are going to fix our parks, but it's not completely done. So this is why we need to go forward with the new council.
I appreciate the answer there, Alice. Just following on from some of the points on the impact fees, and you brought in the Melrose and stuff. If anything, a buyer who's going to buy a house has an understanding of the process of going through title, going through mortgage approvals, and coming out with a figure for their mortgage. And the factor that you brought up, property taxes is a known component. But then they come on with the homeowners fees or homeowner association fees, and then the Melrose, those type of things. Why is it not possible that the city council, in collaboration, maybe it's a statewide issue, maybe it's a county issue, but Melrose tends to change per development, and it's subjective to go up every year. If we're taking this concept that every home we build is going to increase the demand on our services, so we're going to have a impact on the building of that home. Let's say it's 50,000. and that's going to be paid over through a bond period of 30 years. Why does it need to keep increasing every year? Why is the homeowner impacted by increasing fees? Homeowner association fees are not capped. I personally am doubtful or concerned about the services that these entities provide. Maybe if the tree in my front yard dies, they will replace it, but my experience is they won't. I have to replace it, but then it has to be subject to the types of trees they approve. If one of my plants has died, bushes or something, I have to then replace it with something compliant to theirs. If I need to repaint my house, I need to get approval from them. There's a group of people sitting there trying to make everybody comply, totally understand the aesthetics and totally understand everybody's concerns in a maintainable standard. However, my concern is how much does it cost to do that? Have the streets cleaned? Have the light bulbs changed in the street lights? Yes. Maintain the security of that environment? Normally, that's our PD department. And that comes in our property taxes. But the fees that are being charged is a few $100 a month. And if you take all the houses together, it adds up to quite a significant amount. I'm
Hundreds of
just
thousands.
curious, is the city council able to address those things, make it a fixed component, make it a subjective to inflation controls? I don't know. So as a city council member for Tracy, anybody who's concerned about Melrose or homeowners fees as homeowners, what could be done to alleviate their continuing changing expenses, which when they bought their houses, they thought they were fixed?
That's one of the good one of the questions I've talked to neighbors. I don't have Melrose, but some of the neighbors here are still paying Melrose, and I don't understand that. I think one of the key components to this would be our realtors. Our realtors to educate our new home buyers, because if you've seen it, it's those papers, the contract is just pages and pages. And I feel that we need to educate the new residents or home buyers that when you get into this, because as you know, in California, trying to get even insurance now, it's been really difficult. But the Melrose is set in their contracts. We would need to look into it and see what we could do with these developers, because a lot of them is the same developer. And how it's set, that pattern, I'm going to be honest with you, I have to look into that further, because I know it's a legal issue, and I know it has to do with not just property taxes, but it has to do to maintain their area for Melrose or HOA. I agree with you. I understand why they're doing it, because they are maintaining their parks. They have to conform to what's in the front yard. I think sometimes it's too much, because now they're taking away your rights on your backyard. What's in your backyard, however you want to do and maintain it, as long as it's not a fire hazard or anything like that. But we should try to work with the planning department when it comes in to actually sit down and where are these fees going to and how are they being addressed. I know for a fact that the new development in Tracy Hills, for some reason, in their contracts, talking to many residents, there's something, the wording is that they can't take legal actions against them if something's not being done. And I think that needs to be looked into further. That should not, if something goes wrong in your house and you have a warranty, they should be able to fix it. And right now with the Tracy Hills, you only have one way in, one way out. And on their contracts that they signed, in the bottom of one of those pages, it says that you can't sue that developer or the investors with that. So it's catch 22. And I think we have an attorney now that is land use that is looking to a lot of these developments, because you're putting the burden on the residents and they want better life for their families. And one of them doesn't even have a school. We haven't even built a school for them. And they're being transferred to another school, which is impeding on their quality of life, that our children are no longer getting up a half an hour or 40 minutes to school. They're getting up an hour, hour and a half just to go across town, another 3 miles. We got to do better. We have to do better as council. And as far as the impact fees, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. That's something that I have to look into further because I am on planning and I am questioning some of those right now. And we are expediting some of the small businesses, but we have to do better when it comes to our development. And a lot of our residents, once they're here, they realize, they see this beautiful house, but they realize what was on the contract. As being a good steward, as a realtor, and I was actually a loan officer for a few years. I would actually sit down with them and tell them, you have to have the insurance, you have to have your property taxes. And I sat down with them step by step. It took me 2 hours, and they said, "Oh, I can't afford this." They could afford the 600,000, but when it came to the insurance, property taxes, and all the other fees, we found them another house. Not something that they really wanted, but something that could live comfortable for the rest of their life without having to put all these other fees on them. So I think a lot of them also has to do us working with our realtors here in our city. We have some realtors that have been here 30, 40 years. Some of them are doing a good job, and some of them are just selling houses. And nothing to say bad about them, but we all have to work. This is almost like a puzzle. You have to have everybody working together for the betterment of not just Tracy, but our residents in our community. And people coming into our city, they want to be here, but they're stuck with these fees, not realizing when they signed the contract, right? Somebody could come to you and say, "Oh, we could sell you this house, you qualify for a $700,000 home or $800,000 home." But at the end of the day, you're paying more than what you thought, and especially with our property taxes. And the Melrose is something that I would have to talk with our staff to find out how is this being set up and why these contractors are being written this way. Because the new developments, for some reason, they're not going through realtors. In their contract, they're going through the builders, realtors. Did you know that? I don't know if you're aware of it, but you have to go through their realtors or their loan people, which I think that anybody that comes into Tracy, they should have a right to go through whoever they want. That's somebody that's going to look out for the better interests of the residents here in Tracy. So I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. As a council, we have to all work together. We've come up with some solutions. We try to look into things going further. I've been really outspoken as a Tracy community advocate of a lot of these things that are happening in Tracy. And this is why I'm running for council, because not all our voices are being heard. And that's one of my, it's always been the quality of life. And that's one of my priorities here in Tracy.
Thank you on that, Alice, and appreciate your answers on all that. There's a lot of topics in there correlated to what we've talked about, and there's sort of various links to other questions we can have related to all that. But we've addressed the housing, we've addressed homeless, we've addressed public safety, retail crime, and those in many ways are the key issues for residents of any city, considering our environment around the state. Uh, what I'd like to do right now in the next few moments we have is for you to share details of your campaign for City Council and how residents from Tracy may reach out to you while your campaign is active and post-campaign when you're actually on the council, and if they need to reach and get assistance in services or assistance in some city-related matters, how can they reach out to you?
Okay. Yes, thank you. And I know there's a lot of new residents in Tracy, but I just want to give a touch of a little bit of what I've done here in Tracy as a community advocate and as commissioners. Um, Here in Edgewood, they were trying to rezone our land, which was set up for neighborhood shopping, because I'm a proponent for that sustainability. So I was able to get 4 or 5 of our residents working together, and we blocked light industrial. They wanted to put storage units into our neighborhood. And so what we did is we fought it. and we kept the retail for the benefit of the residents, which was originally planned. So I'm really proud of that because we do need more retail and better businesses in South Tracy. So that was one of my accomplishments. The second one, which is dear to my heart, is the emergency response. Not just here in Tracy, but throughout California. But it started here in Tracy. A lot of people don't know that. When you would call 911, in Tracy, we have the best paramedics in all our engines, that their calls were being delayed on medical emergencies and people were dying or being seriously hurt. So we worked that and we've almost got 5,000 signatures. We went to the Board of Supervisors. They heard us loud and clear. And because of that, we were able to change the law that any emergency calls, because it could be something minor, by the time they get there, it could be a heart attack or somebody falls and they're bleeding to death. We are now in California, and it became law in 2019 that all medical calls, our fire department could be dispatched to save lives. And I'm really proud about that because now it reduces the wait time for critical care. And that was my second accomplishment. Then also, there was a Measure Y here in Tracy, which we prevented more traffic congestion because they wanted 6,000 more housing without any provision for our infrastructure. As you know, when we build that many, we need to provide wider roads, first responders, and the residents were being misled. So there were seven of us, including myself and one council member now. We stopped that because I was just going to take more farmland from our ag around Tracy. And that one was also, we accomplished that. We need housing, but we need smart development. And we were being misled about the Valley Link, that this would help the Valley Link, but actually it was taking all the acres down MacArthur Boulevard for more housing and had nothing to do with the Valley Link. And so we won that Measure Y. We had a lot of support from our community. And as you know, I already served on transportation and the Sonoma King County, and I'm serving right now on planning. But I also am proud that I do have the endorsement of Ron Freitas, our district attorney, Robert Rickman, he's our county supervisor, and Troy Brown, he's our county superintendent of schools in San Joaquin County. Uh, we also have Todd Lieberg. He's Parks and Recs. I have good relationships with a lot of these people, and I'm honored to also have the endorsement of Sonny Delawa. I'm sorry, I'm talking too fast. I'll slow down. Sonny Delawa he's a mayor of Lathrop. And we have this report because we have the same vision for our cities, that we want to attract businesses. We need to build our roads, everything together as a city. So I'm honored to have his endorsement, and also Dan Harrison from Mountain House, a new city in the state of California. We have the same mindset for the quality of life for Tracy, for small businesses and our family. And in order to do that, we'll be able to attract bigger businesses and businesses that are going to pay good wages. We have plenty of land for warehousing. We don't need to take any more from our farmland here in Tracy, from Banta. Anything that's happening around the county, we have no control over that, right? But we can control the quality of life here. We need to bring better jobs. We need to sustain those jobs here so we could attract more jobs and improve our infrastructure. And we don't have to worry about those other fees because the more businesses we bring into Tracy, we'll have that money. We'll have that, the sale taxes, we'll have the retail taxes to help and build our community. And that's one of my visions for Tracy. But my goal is, and I will continue to do that, is our public safety. Like I said before, providing support and funding for our fire and police. We need to expand our fire and we need to expand our police to improve our response time for our growing communities. And I also, because of the quality of life, I support and I fight for family amenities for bike trails, family entertainment, and more retail shopping. If we have that, we could attract better businesses here that have good living wages. The infrastructure, we need to find funding to repair our streets and our sidewalks and a public right of way. Right now, we have a mess on Valpico. I've been fighting that since 2017. So now, being on council, we could get that. That's a safety issue. We've had so many car accidents and delaying traffic for our children to go to school. And we have the money. It's just we have to get around that red tape. And most of all, I'm a firm believer in smart development. We need to attract those businesses, like I said earlier, with higher paying wages and less warehousing. We have enough traffic and truck congestions that we don't even have places for these trucks to park. They're parking along the freeways, along the highways. We've got to do better than that too. And so we have to put accountability for the newer logistics that are coming into here to provide those bays for the trucks to park in their property and not along our streets, which is hurting our infrastructure. And so I'm a firm believer in that. I have the trust of so many residents and leaders here in our city and my neighbor cities, Lathrop, Manteca, and Mountain House, that we have the same vision. And we need to do that together. And this is why I hope that I get the trust of the rest of our community and vote for me on November the 5th.
Well, appreciate that and thank you. And we wish you the best for the November election and look forward to talking to you in the future. And
Thank you.
all the best. So
And I
anyway,
appreciate
ਤੁਸੀਂ
it.
ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਸੋਚ ਟੀਵੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਕਾਲੀਰਾਏ ਆਪਣੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਐਲਿਸ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਲਈ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖੜੇ ਨੇ ਨਵੰਬਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਖਿਆਲਾਤ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੁਣੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਵਾਸੀ ਹੈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵੋਟ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਜੇ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਐਲਿਸ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਟ੍ਰੇਸੀ